There is no theater quite like the Beijing military parade. The precision is hypnotic, thousands of boots hitting the pavement with the mechanical synchronicity of a Swiss watch. On the screens of Western defense monitors, it looks like a finished product. The J-20 stealth fighters screaming overhead, the DF-41 intercontinental missiles gleaming in fresh digital camo, and the Yuan-class submarines promise to change the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. For a moment, the world is convinced. The narrative is set. China has arrived as a peer-tier military superpower. But then, the parade ends. The cameras stop rolling, and the hardware actually has to go to work. Fast forward to May 2025. In the heat of real-world friction during Operation Sindoor, Pakistan's Chinese-supplied air defense systems, the much-hyped HQ-9 and HQ-16, faced their first true test of the decade. The result? Total silence. Reports from the field suggest radars were non-functional, and image processing units simply couldn't lock on to high-speed targets. Meanwhile, in Thailand, a billion-dollar submarine deal sits in a state of strategic limbo because the original German heart of the vessel had to be ripped out and replaced with a domestic Chinese engine that even the Thai Navy admitted they were reluctant to trust. From a U.S. defense planning perspective, this creates a dangerous paradox. We are witnessing a military-industrial complex that has mastered the industrial look but is still stumbling through the operational reality. Today, we aren't just looking at why Chinese weapons keep losing after the parade. We're looking at the reliability gap that might be the most significant miscalculation in modern geopolitics.
For decades, the global arms market was a binary choice. You bought American for prestige and performance, or Russian for ruggedness and affordability. But over the last 10 years, Beijing introduced a third option, the high-tech discount. According to SIPRI's 2024 regional trade data, China has positioned itself as the Amazon of defense, offering drones, frigates, and missiles that look like US hardware but cost 40% less. The central strategic question isn't whether China can build a missile, it's whether they can build a system. For Washington, the concern was never that a single Chinese tank was better than an Abrams. The concern was that China had achieved a great leap in industrial capacity that would make Western high-end quality irrelevant through sheer volume. But as these systems move from the parade grounds of Beijing to the jungles of Myanmar and the deserts of Africa, a pattern is emerging. The hardware is arriving, but the capability is missing.
First, let's talk about the heart transplant problem. In any high-end jet, the engine is the soul. While the J-20 looks like a fifth-generation masterpiece, internal reports filtered through 2025 intelligence suggest the WS-15 engine, China's pride, still suffers from thermal fatigue at a rate 3 times higher than the Pratt & Whitney engines powering the F-35. For US planners, this is a massive sigh of relief. It means in a sustained conflict, China's air superiority isn't limited by how many jets they have, but by how many engines are sitting in a repair hangar. Second, the black box of software. Modern war is fought in the electromagnetic spectrum. In 2024, the Nigerian Air Force reportedly struggled with the software integration of their Wingloong 2 drones. The hardware was there, but the kill web, the ability for the drone to talk to the satellite and the ground commander simultaneously, kept crashing. For the US and its allies, this confirms a vital assumption. China's digital Silk Road in defense is built on fragile code. If you can't maintain a data link in a low-intensity conflict in Africa, you certainly won't survive the intense electronic warfare environments of the Taiwan Strait. Third, the export aftermath. China sells weapons like a retail store, not a strategic partner. When a US F-16 breaks, there is a global logistics chain to fix it. When a Chinese VT-4 tank in Pakistan suffers an engine failure, as reported in early 2025, the customer service is non-existent. This creates a strategic trust deficit.
Countries are realizing that while Chinese weapons are cheap to buy, they are impossibly expensive to keep functional. For Washington, this is a window of opportunity to re-engage partners who are currently suffering from buyer's remorse.
Now, here is the contrarian view that keeps Pentagon analysts awake at night. Losing a fair fight doesn't mean Chinese weapons are useless. In fact, thinking they are garbage might be the most dangerous trap of all. From a U.S. defense planning perspective, we have to look past the individual mechanical failures and look at the systemic intent. China isn't trying to out-engineer Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman in a one-on-one duel. They are playing a game of strategic attrition. If a Chinese HQ-9 missile system has a 40% failure rate, but they can produce 10 times as many as the Western equivalent, the math of war changes. For Washington, the parade versus reality gap is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it lowers the immediate technical threat. On the other, it creates an incentive for Beijing to lean into quantity over quality. If your missiles aren't the most accurate, you simply fire more of them until the enemy's billion-dollar interceptors run dry. This good enough doctrine means that even losing weapons can win a war of exhaustion. The real opinion shared in the quiet halls of the Indo-Pacific Command isn't that Chinese tech is a joke, it's that cheap and plentiful has a quality all its own, especially when the U.S. industrial base is struggling to keep pace with basic munitions production.
The ultimate danger of Chinese weapons losing after the parade isn't found on the battlefield, it's found in the mind of the decision-maker. This is the intelligence trap. For years, the CCP has prioritized political optics over operational feedback. In a rigid, top-down system, reporting that a new J-20 engine has failed during a drill isn't just a technical report, it's a career-ending move. This creates a lethal feedback loop. If the leadership in Beijing truly believes their own parade day propaganda, if they believe their hardware is as flawless as it looks on CCTV, they risk making a Putin-style miscalculation. They might launch a high-intensity conflict based on simulated capabilities that simply do not exist in the salt spray and chaos of the South China Sea. From a US and allied perspective, this complicates deterrence in a terrifying way. You cannot easily deter a leader who is being lied to by his own generals and defense contractors. For Washington, the nightmare scenario isn't a Chinese military that works perfectly. It's a Chinese military that doesn't work but thinks it does. This information asymmetry means that the next great conflict might not start because of a calculated move, but because of a catastrophic overestimation of a parade-ready fleet that fails the moment the first shot is fired. The true climax of this strategic drama isn't a dogfight over the Pacific, it's the moment the start button is pressed and the hardware fails to respond, leaving a superpower with no choice but to escalate or collapse.
Ultimately, the gap between a flawless parade and a failing engine is more than just a technical glitch, it is a strategic warning. In the high-stakes game of Indo-Pacific stability, the winner won't necessarily be the one with the shiniest hardware on the tarmac, but the one with the most resilient logistics and the most honest internal reporting. For the US and its allies, the task is clear. They must look past the digital camo and prepare for a reality where quantity might be China's only remaining quality. Because in a conflict that lasts longer than a morning parade, maintenance isn't just a chore, it's a weapon. So, here's the question for you. In a potential conflict over the Taiwan Strait, do you believe the sheer mass of good enough Chinese hardware will overwhelm Western precision, or will the reliability gap lead to a systemic collapse of the PLA's ambitions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you value this level of strategic analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. This is Minh Quân Story International, news told differently.